GM, everybody, welcome back to the channel. So, big relief, really straight after the stream yesterday, Bitcoin started to bounce and we saw that bounce. We've seen that squeeze all the way up to 99,500 that I actually touched upon in yesterday's video. I said, look, it sounds like opium, but we do have liquidations up there. If the market makers want to take us up to 99,000, this is where we could go if we see a bounce. And that's exactly what we saw. So where do we go from here? Well, Bitcoin is obviously looking a lot better than it was yesterday, as is the rest of the crypto market. And I still think risks remain to the downside in the near term, and I'll go through exactly why very soon. But obviously, when you see a big reversal like this, it is often that the market can start to come down and retest as longs start to get a little bit optimistic and jumping a little bit high. People that missed the low here start to get back in, or people that have been liquidated start to get back in. And obviously they have their liquidation prices then a bit close to price, and market makers like to take us down, fill in some of this wick, fill in some of this inefficiency before running us higher. So I do think that is on the cards, a double dip scenario. I also think there is still the possibility that we go a little bit lower, that we actually run into this trend line and test the bottom of this range, and also maybe even spike below this and fill in some of this box. And I've actually drawn this box in here to show you where I would be looking to add to Bitcoin longs, accumulate Bitcoin. Anywhere really in this box, I think is really, really good value. If we actually look at the retracement so far from low to high, we can see we've done a 15% drop. So typically in prior bull markets, we've seen Bitcoin correct a bit more than 15%. Usually it likes to do a 20 to 30% correction. 20% would take us down to around 86,000, close to this 85,000. So that's why I'm saying potentially we do go a little bit low. But of course, Bitcoin has become institutionalized now. Bitcoin is seeing less volatility cycle by cycle to the upside, and it's also reasonable to expect less volatility to the downside as well when Bitcoin does drop. So we're seeing reduced volatility both ways. And look, I think if we come from a position where the market was really overheated, that we had a massive sort of acceleration to the upside, maybe to 110,000, 115, or even 120,000, then potentially we would have seen a big snapback and we would get a 20%, 25%, maybe as low as a 30% drop. But because we've been sort of grinding up fairly steadily and there's not been an over exuberance in the market, there's not been too much in terms of open interest being too high or funding rates being too high, I think this is really why we've seen a more shallow correction. And let's be honest, this is really just a par for the course correction. Obviously, a lot of people getting really scared down here, getting worried about inflation, getting worried about obviously Fed Chairman Powell's comments, also US going into shutdown. There was all of these news stories that were floating around yesterday morning, and people were starting to get very, very panicky. I was getting a lot of messages about people really starting to panic about this sell-off. Certain people I know also sold down here as well. And I said, look, things can look very, very different by the end of the day. I want to wait for today's close. I want to wait for the Friday close, the CME close. Also want to wait for Sunday's close to see if this market can turn around. And obviously, it did turn around yesterday. Bitcoin closing bullish on the day. A little bit of green so far today as well. And also, we've seen Donald Trump's world liberty actually coming in and buying Ethereum yesterday. So we got this tweet here. Trump's world liberty spent 2.5 million USDC to buy 759 ETH, again 20 minutes ago. So this tweet literally came out yesterday, and this is what got me, well, I didn't actually see it at the time, but this really, I think, because you've got so many people that are now tracking this World Liberty financial wallet, then this is obviously something that people are looking to actually follow the trades that Trump's project is actually making. And of course, if the Trump's project starts buying Ethereum, then a lot of whales are tracking this wallet and they're going to start buying Ethereum as well. So Ethereum actually bounced really, really well. If we look at Ethereum, then we came all the way down to 3,100, which was the level that I was talking about as tagging, which is this zero point 0.5 level from yearly low to yearly high. And then we've seen a decent bounce and we closed all the way back close to 3,500. We actually came up and tagged 3,500 today. So nearly a $300 bounce in Ethereum, which is really good to see. So far, it's been literally nearly a 15% bounce. And obviously, we're coming into a little bit of resistance here around this 3,540, 3,550 area. So I'm expecting potentially we might come over again. And like Bitcoin, I think potentially we could sort of come down into this sort of yellow box. This is the box that I'd be looking to accumulate more. So obviously, this is really starting from around the midpoint of this candle here. And then obviously if we do come lower, just below this midpoint that I identified in terms of being the 50%, then I would be looking to accumulate or buy along this top trend line. And I think if we did wick below that to maybe the midpoint of this channel, that would be the absolute lowest we would go for Ethereum. And obviously we would then come down and retest sort of these lows. We can see what a strong level this 2,850 support has been for Ethereum, and I'd expect that to come into play as support if we got down there. I think that's the absolute worst case scenario. But I like the look of this, and I do think potentially Ethereum comes down, sort of dips its toes back into this box, feels some of this inefficiency candle, and then starts to get a move on north. And obviously, we talked about Ethereum going into its strongest quarter, its strongest month being January, its strongest quarter being Q1, especially following a halving year. So especially going into 2025. And look, we're just 10 days away from that now. So potentially we're going to see some really nice upwards price action in Ethereum next month. So any dips on Ethereum back down here again below sort of 3,300, I would say I'm going to be adding to longs. And I think this would be a great area to accumulate going into next year. And obviously, just looking on the weekly here, obviously the weekly, we have lost this descending trend line, but that was always a possibility. And I think there's a good chance that we will regain this over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I'd be very surprised if we're not back above here by, say, this time next month, in 1 month's time. So that potentially gives us another sort of 3 or 4 weeks of accumulation of Ethereum below 4,000. So that's something that I'm looking to lean in on and capitalize on. And like I say, the fact that Donald Trump's project has been buying Ethereum just really gives it more weight, gives it more validity. And like I say, it kind of really puts it out there as a good trade for Q1 next year. Now, if we look at our liquidations as well, then we can see we ate through these liquidations here that I talked about yesterday, around 98, 99,000, coming all the way up sort of to 99,500. We can see now we have some liquidations below price at around 94. We've also got some still above price going up to 100,000. So does Bitcoin potentially make a move above 100,000, which would obviously attract probably a lot more late longs? A lot of people that miss the dip would then say, panic, it's above 100,000. I have to get my positions in. And then potentially at that point, does the market make it flush us lower, back down just below 95 to panic people out before running us higher again? I think that's definitely a possibility. If we look at the 12-hour, so this is just orders going in over the last day, we can see there's quite a lot of liquidations down here, down to about 96, 96 and a half. So if we did see some volatility over the weekend, I think 96 would probably be a target on Bitcoin. So potentially we would come down to 96. And if we just go back to the Bitcoin chart and look at where that would take us, 96 would basically sort of take us back down potentially towards this trend line or just under this trend line, we can see what a big area or zone of resistance this is around here, or support now. This is around here, around 96, 96,500. So potentially we get another wick down here into this zone here at around 96. And then we start to see a move higher. Alternatively, they might run us higher up to around 100,000 and then drop us down a final time towards 96. So this, I don't know which way, obviously, it's going to go first. I don't have a crystal ball here. But I do think at some point we probably sort of catch both sides of this. It just really depends whether we come for the longs first and we go lower, or whether we attack the shorts first and go higher and then come down. I think both scenarios are equally as likely as we are, but I'm not expecting sort of continuation either way over the weekends. All I will say is that the Friday close was strong. Usually we can see some follow through into the weekend. I think there'll probably be quite a lot of traders that have missed out, that either got liquidated or stopped out on Friday, or maybe sort of panic sold on Friday morning and are now thinking, damn, like I panicked there. I wish I'd not done that, and I want to get back into the market now. And I think there'll be active buyers looking to come in. So it depends whether those buyers are going to be patient and waiting for a move down. Obviously, if they're a bit emotional because they've just been liquidated or stopped, or been panicked out of the market, they might be getting in now. And obviously, the market makers, if they do take us above 100,000 again, I think that will be probably the first time we get back above 100,000 will be a bit of a trap. And I could see us potentially running into some difficulty just above 100,000. Maybe we get to 101, maybe we get up to this sort of close to 102, and then we sort of come down for a second dip before sort of pushing on higher. So these are all, what can I say? These are all potential outcomes that I can see right now. Obviously, if we did decide to come lower, like I say, I think this would be the value area that I'd be looking to accumulate. But obviously, what I'd want to see would be more of a higher consolidation. That would obviously be a lot more bullish than coming down here. Obviously, if we did come down here, then it would probably take a lot more sort of time for us to play out and for us to go bullish again, obviously making a lower consolidation as to a higher one. Personally, with myself, I'm fully positioned now. I bought a lot yesterday. I have a very, very small amount of fiat on the sideline, or should I say stable coins on the sideline, that I'd only really be willing to deploy either at lower prices, or I'd be looking for Bitcoin to go bullish again and to actually add on some sort of breakout, potentially into maybe some lagging altcoins. If something's lagging behind, it still looks at a good entry when Bitcoin actually gets above 108,000 back to all-time highs. Otherwise, I'm going to be a little bit defensive with the rest of my capital, just in the knowledge that, look, this could go for one more sort of push to the downside. I'm not ruling anything out here. So another thing I did want to look at just before we wrap up our analysis on Bitcoin is the ETF flows as well. So we can see a massive outflow here on the ETF. This was back on Thursday, and another big outflow yesterday on Friday. So we've got these really big ETF outflows. And what we've actually seen is that we've seen that when we see big outflows on the ETF, that often is a sign of a local bottom. Obviously, it's capitulation from the ETF investors, and that can often mark signs of the local bottom. So if we look back, this is the 1st of May where we saw a really big outflow. If we just go back on Bitcoin here, back to May, and we will see this low actually came in on the 1st of May. So that is very interesting. If we take another one, if we look at another really big outflow, we've got one here on the 4th of November. So if we now look at the 4th of November, what can we see? I think it's here. Yes, Monday, the 4th of November. Another big outflow. After both of these big outflows, Bitcoin rallied really aggressively to the upside, and that potentially is what we're going to see here as well. And I mean, I want to say it didn't really look back. The second time it didn't really look back. Obviously, after the first time we were in a different phase in the market where we were chopping sideways and in a long consolidation. But here, the last time it happened, obviously we'd broken out, we're in an uptrend, and price really aggressively moved to the upside after that outflow, that huge outflow. And obviously where we are here, potentially the history repeats and we could see an aggressive move now up in Bitcoin. Obviously, the ETFs are closed over the weekend, but potentially from Monday, we get some continuation on Monday. So obviously liquidity is going to be low over the next few days. It is the Christmas period as well. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious just over the rest of this week. But I think things are setting up nicely going into January. Like I say, I really like the Ethereum long here. Full disclosure, I'm in a pretty sizable Ethereum long that I started building higher up. So this has given me a nice opportunity to obviously add to that position at a lower cost basis. So again, if Ethereum does come down, I will be looking to accumulate more. Otherwise, I'm happy to run that trade higher. I'm not really looking to take pieces back off on the way up. I do think we go higher going into January for Ethereum. Like I said, I'd be very surprised if we're not above $4,100. That is my big trade idea for really for the next sort of 3 to 6 months is long Ethereum to new all-time highs. And obviously, when Ethereum gets to new all-time highs, that's going to send the altcoin sector as well. So I'm also long quite a lot of altcoins. Solana's been a bit of a roller coaster ride if you're holding Solana or in any sort of Solana position, let alone a leveraged position on Solana. Obviously, coming back through this descending trend line, which obviously we broke out. So this is connecting the highs from the previous bull run and also this bull run, similar to where we've got Ethereum. So the reason I like Ethereum is down here somewhere, basically still back underneath this descending trend line, but Solana has already broken it. So I guess you'd say sort of big picture wise, Solana is more bullish or has been more bullish over the last few weeks and months. And obviously, in the sort of short term, over the last few weeks, we have seen Solana sort of come down, back down, make the retest. I like to see a weekly close, obviously above this descending trend line. Best case scenario, you get a weekly close back above this sort of $204, $205 level. So Solana has made an attempt back to 200. It's actually rejected the first time. So potentially you've got some trapped longs here that want to get out of this market. So this might be a bit of resistance for now. But I do think Solana over the next day or two can, or if it can, get above this resistance, things will be looking a lot better for Solana. Of course, look, I think the main thing to hold is this descending trend line and reclaim this very quickly, if not this week, next week, for us to be bullish on Solana again. But again, Solana will really follow what Bitcoin does. So all eyes on Bitcoin and Bitcoin strength. We need a strong Bitcoin to obviously turn this market around. Pepe as well came all the way down to its 618 Fibonacci. So Pepe here, obviously sort of coming all the way back, literally hitting its 618 Fibonacci on a wick. I'm going to take this off for now so it's a bit cleaner. And again, as with Solana, when the drawings load up, this is the box that I like to accumulate in. If we do get another wick down here, if we do come down to this 166 on Solana, I think that's going to be super, super strong support. Obviously, we front run it for now, which I like, by the way. I do like the fact that these markets have front run some of their supports. Bitcoin's done it. Solana's done it. Obviously, Ethereum came right down to its 50%. Pepe came right down to its 618. So this is a strong bounce. And like I say, any moves into this box on Pepe, I'll be looking to long. But as long as Pepe closes the week above this 1716 area, I'm going to be really bullish here. And look, I mean, it's just a great reversal candle. We're starting to find some momentum back up here. Pepe now coming into this area of lows. Obviously, Pepe can mark up very, very quickly from here. And look, I think if we get back above, say, this 2000 level, then Pepe will be working its way higher. The other thing we can do on Pepe is do a bit of a descending trend line, and we can see that when Pepe breaks that trend line, it should be off to the races. I think I've done something similar with Solana. Um, Actually, Solana's channel is all the way here. So Solana has a bit of work to do to get up to its descending trend line. I have done one on Ethereum, obviously easier to see this on the 4 hour, but really want to see a break of this trend line currently coming in around sort of 6,600, sorry, 3,650. Obviously, it's going to get lower as the price sort of moves forward in time. So that one is one to watch, and I'm pretty sure I didn't done the same thing on Bitcoin here. Yes, so Bitcoin has actually broken its trend line already, and we can see that. So Bitcoin sort of leading the way out of this, and potentially, like I say, we might come down for a retest to take the liquidations out around 96,000. Potentially, we sort of wick below it. Any wicks below this is fine, but I want to see this hold. So obviously, yes, those are important sort of levels I've been looking for on the other majors to obviously sort of reclaim to then say, right, we're sort of out of the woods here and we're definitely more likely to be going higher. Let's take a quick look at the dollar then. Obviously, dollar closed today, but in terms of the weekly close, we had a pretty nice sell-off yesterday and formed a bit of a wick here. So that is obviously something that is good to see if you're investing in crypto or stocks. Obviously, a really aggressive, strong dollar sort of ripping higher is going to put some pressure on any dollar denominated assets such as obviously the US stock market and Bitcoin. So it's good to see a little bit of a wick and some signs of a reversal coming in here on the dollar. We still have the potential to push on higher to around 109 and up to 110 as well. So potentially that move happens. But if that does happen, just remember that over the long term, that will still be a weekly lower high. And that would give us obviously, the makings of potentially a downtrend emerging in the dollar. So yeah, I think the dollar strength could continue here, looking at this weekly close. But yes, I do think overall, at some point, the dollar will probably stabilize and start to come off, which could coincide with a top next year for the stocks and for crypto. Just looking at the stock market then, so obviously the Nasdaq ending the week on quite a big reversal wick. Obviously, a decent bullish day yesterday for the S&P. The Nasdaq, similar thing. The Nasdaq really, really led the charge in the recovery. I remember seeing it yesterday. It already reclaimed its 50% of its sell-off. So I was just doing a measure from here to here. And I remember at one point seeing the Nasdaq, it was above that 50%, above 21, sort of 500, and was looking really, really strong. So we gave up a little bit of gains later into the day, later on to the on into the day, later into the day. We gave up some gains later yesterday, but obviously a bullish candle to close the week, which is good. And just looking at the weekly, we can see obviously lots of volatility. So that is stocks. I'd expect the stock market, hopefully, well, possibly to make another attempt lower, but I think the low is likely, and I like this retest that the Nasdaq made back to its prior all-time high from the summer, and really, really big reaction. So obviously, if the stocks roll over again, potentially that puts weight on crypto. You can see everything's interlinked. Obviously, if the stock market does start to go higher, that would be good. And I think probably the low also will be in for crypto. So I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on the Nasdaq and the stock market tomorrow. We can also take a very quick look at Total 3. So Total 3 coming back down, looking to retest the previous all-time high. It front run it ever so slightly. So getting very, very close to that 3.1 trillion mark. We actually came into the 3.01, 3.05. So front running it slightly. So maybe if stocks roll over and Bitcoin comes down again, we could come down and sort of test in a little bit more to that level. But this is also a reason I'm not expecting a major breakdown. As long as the total crypto market cap is holding this 3 trillion, then I don't foresee a really big breakdown occurring in any of the cryptos any further than we've already seen, maybe by a little bit, by a few percent more. But I fully expect if we hold this, well, of course it's all correlated, right? If we hold this, then cryptos are going to obviously hold up, and we can start to mark up higher, hopefully in Q1 next year. And total 3, this is excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. We can see total 3 at its prior all-time high. It's come down, it's wicked down to the 382, just below that, and we are trying to close back up here above the previous highs, or at least you can see what a major high level this has been, around the 983 billion. So it'd be interesting to see at the end of the week, have we managed to get back above this 983 billion? Obviously, we're just working on really getting acceptance above that level to then find some price consolidation and attempt a push higher. And again, I think this will likely happen next month. Bitcoin dominance as well. So we saw a resurgence in dominance, but we're seeing a bit of a reversal yesterday and a little bit of follow through again today. So obviously this is positive for the altcoin space, positive for Ethereum. I do want to check out Ethereum Bitcoin as well, because I was looking at this one yesterday, and to me, it looks like we are starting to put in a bit of a low here on Bitcoin, Ethereum. You can see we've got a couple of trend lines in play, obviously providing support. This is all a major support zone for Ethereum against Bitcoin. And look, I think we're finding support here literally at the ideal time. Ethereum is about to go into its most bullish quarter, Q1 of the post-halving year, and I'm just really bullish on Ethereum here. Obviously, for me, confirmation would be above this 0.42 level, and I think you can see what a major area that has been. And from there, I think we can really run up. We can also probably put on a descending trend line here as well to say that, look, a breakout of this trend line. So we can see we're in a falling wedge pattern, but a breakout of this trend line will really probably send us, I would think, somewhere up to around sort of 6.65 in the short term. I might just put that on as a horizontal now, as we can see that has been quite a key reaction area in terms of where we've been trading. So potentially we get up to 6.6. This could be as much as a 2x in Ethereum value versus Bitcoin. I don't know if I'd actually be that optimistic. Let's just maybe see where the midpoint would be if we're basing it off this current low on a Fibonacci. And yet maybe this is a little bit more realistic. We come in here to around about 0.6. It's still going to be a good sort of 50-60% move in Ethereum versus Bitcoin from this level, actually 70, so about 72% move. So that is definitely one possibility that I'm looking at, and that's another reason why I'm so bullish on Ethereum here. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I wanted this to be a really quick one, but actually, as you can see, it's turned into another slightly longer one. But obviously a lot to get through, a lot going on right now. So obviously the streams are a little bit longer than when the market is just sort of steadily sort of grinding its way higher, and there's not really too much to talk about other than looking at potential next upside targets. Now we've got to look at downside targets. We've got to look at key levels. We've got to look at places where we want to add risk, places where we want to de-risk, places, different sources of information that are all giving us slightly different bits of information for us to make decisions off. Obviously, that is all a part of being a trader, is obviously looking at all the information and then just trying to decide what is relevant, what's not relevant. I can tell you right now that, the relevant data for me is the fact that we're going into Q1 seasonally. That's a really, really important month. So I'd be expecting Q1 Ethereum outperformance, likely altcoin outperformance. We're seeing Bitcoin dominance start to tick down. We're starting to see Ethereum BTC start to put in a low and tick up. We've come down to sort of key support areas that we're started to see reactions on, or we have seen reactions on already. Total 3 is still holding its all-time high levels. So I think we've still got reasons to be optimistic here. Let's take it day by day over the next week and see where we go. Obviously, if we do come down again, potentially that's going to be an opportunity in my book. If we go a bit higher, maybe if you're over leveraged, it might be an opportunity to de-risk above 100,000 on Bitcoin. But let's see what happens. I'll definitely be back again tomorrow with another stream, as I think it's really important to keep the daily content going right now and be locked in. And yeah, stay safe out there, trade well, have a wonderful day, and talk to you all on the next one. GM, GM, GM.